Welcome back, guys. We're here for Jaws 2.0.
Hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of Jaws. I am Jason Wahler, and I'm alongside my beautiful
wheezy wife,
Ashley Marie Wahler. 34, 36 weeks pregnant.
No, I'm not. I'm 33 weeks pregnant.
33. It's going to be here before you know it. We don't know what we're going to have. We knew about Delilah. We knew about Wyatt, but it's going to be a surprise.
I'm excited. I'm not ready at all.
I was really bitter about it. I'm not going to lie in the beginning because I was like, I'm very compartmentalized and I want to know everything. But I'm actually really excited that I don't know now.
It's compartmentalized. It's kind of like a control freak if you want to know and like be in control of knowing.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Anyways, just definitely like to have things in order, know what's going on.
But now you're excited.
I am. I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
it. Anyways, we're going to jump into, wanted to follow up with Digital Detox. We touched on that. Thought that was really good. We got a lot of good feedback from that. Pops, mom, and dad even actually watched it. I thought that was a good idea. So,
I love that.
good feedback. I'll just share before you go into that. It is so amazing. Like, again, being able to, like, switching the number, having the work phone at work, having, my other phone here. But even just now coming home from work, like, I'm trying to be very, and I was, like, made sure of it today. Like, when I got home, I put my phone, like, in the basket, had it away from me, and I knew I wanted to just go be with the kids. And it was like almost like 2 hours had gone by. And just like, I just remember riding the bikes, like after we played baseball and like we were, it was pitching and played catch with Wyatt and Delilah. And then I just remember like looking over at Wyatt and like his big smile, like on the bike. And I was just like, God, like, I can't believe how many times like throughout my life, I was like, just through my kid's life where I've just been distracted.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's been points too, like where Wyatt would be like, Dad, put it on your phone, or Mom, or what? Delilah would do the same thing, like, put down your phone. It's like, God, like, that's just what a crappy place to be. And again, as I know, I mean, sometimes you have to do what you have to do, but in those moments, it was just like one of those things, like I literally was looking at Wyatt, and he's just like smiling, riding his bike, and I was just like, God, I'm so grateful just to be able to be in the moment. And be a part of this. And so, I don't know, if you guys struggle with that, again, is like, out of sight, out of mind, remove it. And Ashley's been sleeping. Actually, her phone's been away from the bed when she's been sleeping. Got an alarm clock. She's got this whole little fancy thing over there, it's actually really nice.
I now have the Hatch. Shout out to Hatch.
Basically, it's so good. A little like light comes on, like the sun's coming up. And these birds are chirping.
Meditation comes. It's amazing.
Yeah, it puts you in this zen spot.
It does.
But I've never not slept with my phone by the bed. And so I'm going to do that tonight, and looking forward. It's just those little changes, like little things. It's nothing super drastic. So that's my take on just kind of my 2 cents around that. But you've been a lot more in it and really, I don't know, just you've been very committed to that portion of like what you've been doing.
And I don't on my phone in the morning.
So elaborate.
Well, my phone's in the basket, and then I don't even check my phone or grab it or anything until pretty much the kids are almost out the door. Like, I'll check it maybe one time because I need to make sure if my clients are going to be on time, so I'm not rushing out the door and then heaven forbid a client cancels, and that was a waste. But there's really no need. Like, no one needs to get a hold of me before 8 o'clock in the morning. And if they do, it's probably not that important. And if it's an emergency, they'll figure it out. They'll come to my house and knock on the door, I guess. The thing that I did notice is because we had really severe weather the other night, and so I had my phone by the bed, just making sure, because that's how I get my notifications. And if obviously the alarm, I didn't even need the alarm on, but it notifies me if there's like a tornado. And I had the worst night's sleep of my life. I just remember waking up all the time. Like, I totally noticed a difference if my phone is laying by the bed. And I don't know if it was just because of nerves, because of the storm, but at the end of the day, like, every single time I woke up, I checked my phone. Every single time I went to the bathroom, I checked my phone. It's just a habit. It's like just out of sight, out of mind. When it's not in here, I don't look at it. It's not like I walk out of my room, go to the basket and look at my phone. No way. So it totally changes the way that I sleep, and not having it anywhere near me, it's not that important.
The other thing too that
realize.
you bring up that I think is really important, I think we learned this last year when we were talking about this, or I'm not sure where we learned this, but it's like we said about emergencies, right? Like if you program that in your mind and like you think like an emergency is going to come through your phone, like you constantly like psychologically and neurologically like are prone to that. Like there's an
Yeah.
attachment to like, oh my god, if there's going to be an emergency, or like you
Yeah.
can't disconnect from it. You know, remember what I'm saying?
100%.
And so it's like, again, is the way you even look at like the phone component, because like there was a whole section we went over around like, well, I'm worried what happens if there's an emergency, or like it's like at the end of the day, it's like our families, like for us, I'll speak for ourselves, like our kids are upstairs, you and I are here, everybody else is across the country. It's like even if there's an emergency, there's nothing we could literally do in that split second. So
It's like the control too. I think that it's actually really good for people that are in recovery from the Al-Anon and the addict's perspective. Is like we are such control freaks in every avenue, especially codependence. Like we try and control the addict. We try and control all. Our life is so chaotic, so control is like the only thing that we want to do, because it makes us feel like if we have some sort of control over something, we can change things, which is actually not true at all. But it's the same thing with the phone. Like if it's near us, we can control the outcome of if there's an emergency, but it's like you can't.
no.
Like you literally can't control what's going to happen in the world. And if you, heaven forbid, are not by your phone, like you being by your phone at that moment,
It's unnecessary and like created anxiety basically.
yeah,
And
100%.
so again, it's just our perspective on it, and it really rang with me is because like I was always worried about emergencies or different things that would come through there. And it's like, dude, we'll get handled. It needs to get handled.
100%.
So, anyways, anything else you want to add on digital detox?
No, I just think it's been a really good. I think it's always good to like look at the things that if they're adding, like Jason says, is it adding or subtracting from your life? And if you feel like overwhelmed sometimes by social media or by the phone or by work or anything else, like it's good to just reevaluate your boundaries with things so that you can get in better control of like things that are healthier for you than things that aren't. So I think for me, it's just been a great perspective to be like, hey, I notice I feel this when I'm staring or scrolling. I don't feel good about myself. I feel like I'm less than. I feel like I need to buy more crap that I don't need. That for me is unhealthy. So if I can utilize my phone more as a work tool and do the things that I need to do on it and then be done with it and not scroll or waste time doing that, you know, then fine. If I'm researching something, that's one thing. I've realized that that's like totally fine. But
Excuse me.
I like just being more aware. So I think it's been great.
Yeah, no, I
But
think
not
it's
perfect.
but I think it's something to really reevaluate. And I don't know, sometimes I just look back at like in the 90s how life was, and again there's like a lot of added value with technology and stuff, but there was also a lot more simplistic components to life without all of it. Just being readily available. I mean, people have access to you all throughout the day, you know what I mean? And so being able to shut that off, you got to take control and prioritize that. And for us, it's really important to look at the relationship that we have with our technology and set that aside. So again, just for us, constantly trying to evolve in areas. Today, there was actually something I posted on Instagram talking about technology and stuff, but I've been getting a lot of questions around relapse and just my thoughts and or opinions, because obviously I'm somebody that's relapsed. It's a big part of my story. It's something that I've gone through multiple times. If you don't know it, I mean, I literally have gone to 13 different treatment centers from Florida to Hawaii, every state in between. Struggled severely, you know, and I'd say for the greater portion of, you know, the majority of those treatment centers, in the early stages, I was really not trying to necessarily get sober. It was to appease family, appease courts, appease somebody I was dating, whatever it was. But when I got sober for the first time, July 23rd, 2010, you know, my life got pretty damn good. You know, I was doing the deal. I got back out of treatment, you know, got a job, found a purpose, found passion. It's crazy to think about, like, as sad as it is, that was like my first real job at 23 years old, was working in recovery, but it was also an opportunity for me to grow mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, and maturity. And, you know, having accountability to somebody like a boss, and just different things in my life that I had not had growing up. But anyways, you know, and I was working a solid program, was constantly seeing a therapist, was getting involved in church, you know, was working the steps, had a sponsor, I was working with people. I was speaking. I was giving back. Like things were going good. And later on down the road, about 5 years later, it was pretty damn close to about 5 years, ended up falling off. And so, why I give you the front load of that story, my whole point to this is, and some people may agree and some people may disagree with me when I say this, but for me, relapse is not a part of recovery. It's actually a lack thereof. And what I mean by that is what's predictable is preventable. And if you look at if I look at the 5 years that I had sober prior to me relapsing, and if I look at everything that I was doing, it is apparent as I got towards the time when I was about to relapse. I look back and I'm like, dude, my whole program fell off. I stopped working with my sponsor. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped engaging in church. Stopped seeing my therapist. I mean, just everything that I had done to get that 5 years, I had stopped doing. And so for me, I look back, and that's why I always talk about the importance of your program. Like you always hear me say, consistency and structure create safety. It's something that you have to have in order. Again, is when you are, for me, when once you've actively arrested the disease, you've gotten stabilized, you're at a place where you're able to make your own decisions again, versus when you're active in addiction, you literally lose the right to make your own decisions. So like right now, if I were to pick up a drink, like I'd be fully self-aware of what's going on, and what I'm doing in that moment. And so I think I'd be curious to kind of hear your side of that, or any questions that you have just from me stating that. I mean, one is, we've never really talked about this. Is what I said makes sense to you? Questions, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that it's interesting though, because when you relapsed, I definitely know that like life, we bought our first house, we got a little retriever. It was like the total Orange County picture perfect, relationship. Married, and it was you going to, like, you were working so much, and I think that that's kind of where your program started falling off, because you were doing so well. And you got a really good job working at a treatment center, and you're making good money, and we were like living a really great life. And then it was when you went to your psychiatrist that re-prescribed you pain medications.
Pain medications?
I mean, oh my gosh, this is what happens when you're pregnant.
Adderall?
Re-prescribed you, yes, Adderall for your mental pain. He re-prescribed you Adderall, and that for me, and I didn't even really know any of this story until later on, obviously, because it's not like you told me, I'm going to my psychiatrist to go get some Addies. It's like, no, you
yeah, but I think the other part though to that is I didn't even have the intent to like go abuse it. Like that was the other part of the whole story.
Yeah,
like,
because didn't you take Adderall when you were a kid?
Yeah, I took Adderall when I was a kid, but I think the other part, there's two things you bring up that are really important, is me working in recovery and treatment. Like I made that part of my program, which in reality you got to keep those things totally separate. Just because when you're working in treatment, you're working with other alcoholics, you're working with other addicts, you're in it, you're constantly doing the deal. Like that's not the same as working your own program. So that was a huge thing where like my personal program totally got set off track from that. But from the relapse perspective and going back to the psychiatrist, I had no intent of like abusing it. It was like, basically I'd stopped doing all the things I needed to do. Life was getting chaotic. Went back, and I'd seen the psychiatrist. It wasn't like this is random time. I still didn't.
Your whole family sees a psychiatrist.
So I went to the psychiatrist. I've been seeing the psychiatrist, and he was like, "Hey, dude, do you think it seems like you could benefit from? You've always struggled with ADD. Come to find out, way later on down the road, I don't have ADD. But
great psychiatrist.
But anyways, started taking Adderall again, and then like a couple months down the road, literally got like prescription dyslexia, where instead of taking one every 8 hours, I was taking 8 every 1 hour, and it was off to the races from there. But again, it was that whole fall off of stuff, and like it's as I've gotten more time again after having 5 years this time, and like doing a deep dive back on my history, it's just so interesting. And that's why it's so important for me today is I have to stay on routine with this. And again, I'm not perfect with this, but it's when I fall off track, like it's so important to do the daily reprieve and just like keep intact. Like, okay, hey, this is the areas where I did well in today. These are the areas that I need to improve, and going and making sure I do that, because the important thing to understand is that you really like you relapse before you even pick up the drink or the drug.
Yeah.
And so it's important to keep those things into check, because that's where like the term dry drunk, or something like that comes into play, is because you can still have the same mannerisms and or behaviors without the substance. And so it's keeping your program in check and in routine. And so I look back, like the irritability, the restlessness, the discontentness, like all the things that were in play, like they're all part of that process. And so for me, again, is relapse is not a part of recovery. It's a lack thereof. And again, this isn't to like, and I say that like there's a lot of people that relapse and there's a lot of people that struggle, and it's like this isn't like a shame thing. This is, hey, look, like for you're talking to somebody that's relapsed multiple times, but this it's be grateful that you made it through this. And I think it's important for people to understand, because the landscape has changed this day and age. It's not the same as it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. I mean, you have people that are not even addicts that are dying just in an experimental phase, just with all the fentanyl and stuff out there. But again, as if you've relapsed, this is not like a shame thing by any means, or a guilt thing. It's more of, for me, it was taking ownership and accountability and understanding where I can improve and continue to grow. And so, yeah, it's just something I thought was important to talk about.
I have a question, because like, say for instance, you are living with somebody and they are in that like kind of dry drunk phase and you're really nervous. I mean, you're nervous that they're going to relapse. Like, what do you suggest from a like family member's perspective on what to do? I mean, you can't change the person. You can always encourage the person, but do you think there was anything I could have done for you in that moment that could have changed the trajectory of you like going to a psychiatrist, or probably not?
No, I mean, it's interesting, right? I mean, both of us being in Al-Anon now, right? And it's like, I'd almost turn the question back to you to answer your own question.
Yeah.
Because of the perspective that you're in. But I also think that if you can see that somebody is struggling and that they're going through it, it's not, I would not address it from an attacking form. It's more of approaching it from a love and compassion. And I'm not saying like from your side, but if the tables were turned and you were struggling with addiction, I'd approach it like, hey, look, I love you. I care about you so much. You seem like you're a little off. Is there anything that I can do to support you, or is there anything that you want to talk about? And approach it with kid gloves, because if there is something going on, obviously you're in a fragile state. And I think that's the other thing is it's a delicate situation. But I'm one of those people that I'm going to be proactive about it. Again, I'm going to be there, love somebody, care about them, and support them as long as they're willing to do what's right for them. Now, if it's at a place where it's going to be enabling, it's going to hinder stuff, then obviously I'm going to question that. But it's like, if somebody is actively still sober, but you can tell they're going through it, I mean, obviously you're going to approach them and ask how you can be supportive. I mean, I had a guy today reach out to me who's got 6-7 years of sobriety. And I knew something was off, and I mean, I shot him a text just like, hey dude, is everything good? And so I think it's important to check in on individuals, but yeah, I mean, it's you don't want to cross the line where it's becoming enabling though.
Yeah. It's just such a fascinating topic, because I think that's like the biggest fear for people that live with somebody who struggles with addiction. I think everybody asks me that too. Like, aren't you so nervous if Jason relapses or picks up a drink or anything else? And I think that that's where like the action of the program of Al-Anon really comes into place. Because of course, like, I would fear if my husband were to drink again. But I also think that I have so many tools and so many resources and so much support and everything else that it's like, it's not going to get as far as it ever did. Because before, I didn't have any of the tools. I didn't have any resources. I just literally like lived through the manipulation of everything. And now I'm in a completely different phase where I've actually understood what addiction is, and now being like in this perspective and learning so much, it's just the landscape, like you said, like the landscape's so different. We have so much knowledge.
What would you do if I relapsed? Like, let's hypothetically say, like,
don't even think, I don't even, it's interesting, like, definitely immediately call somebody and put you into detox, like 100%. You'd have to go to treatment. Like, I don't think that there would be another option. I don't think I'm like that. No,
I'm just curious because I think
I would definitely like call your sponsor or call somebody for sure. Like there's no way. And before I would have never done that. I would have never called anybody. I'd be like, no, you're like, actually I'd probably just shove you in the car and take you myself because I know everyone at the hospital. So I'd just be like, check it in. Don't want to see him.
No, it's a sensitive subject, and again, it's just my perspective on that, and what I'm hoping that me bringing that up does is it empowers people to put their program as the number one priority. And it's funny because I told Ashley when we first met, my program, God, and my program is my number one priority. If I don't have that, I won't have anything else. And lo and behold, years down the road, my program was not my priority, and I started to lose everything around me. And so, it's important to understand that you know, it's not alcoholism, it's alcoholism, and it's there, it's constantly active, and you got to do what you need to do on a daily basis to keep that in check. And for me, I feel comfortable and confident. I'm not in a place where I'm not going to say I have the power over my addiction or alcoholism. Like I'm never going to relapse again. It's going to be contingent on my action, and it's going to be contingent on what I do. But I know today I'm not drinking, and tomorrow's a new day, and it's on me to do what I need to do from the moment I wake up to the moment I go back to bed. And so, again, if you're out there and you're struggling too, I think it's just important to talk about this. Is if you're out there and you're struggling, just know you're not alone. I think the best thing you can do is reach out, and let somebody know that you need help. That's one of the best things that you can do. Is it takes so much power out of the disease when you can get open and honest. And I'd say like the two biggest things for me is being able to get open and honest, and being completely willing to just take direction is what you can do. So there is a solution out there. And I think the most beautiful thing, if you are struggling, this could be the last day that you ever have to feel like this, is if you make that decision just to reach out to somebody and get help.
I feel like a lot of times when people ask me if I have a fear about chasing relapsing, I think one of the biggest things too is I have so many tools now, but also I don't live in the fear of the future, because that is where you get into your itty bitty shitty committee, and that is what makes my disease of codependency way worse. So that's where I like can get into a lapse, is if I'm constantly like future tripping about what could happen that's not really what is happening. So feelings aren't facts, and we all know that. So we don't need to make our feelings take over our lives and make our reality distorted. And I think that that's really, really important, because a lot of times if we do start future tripping and we start thinking like that, we can turn into the monster that can actually like hinder the addict's recovery, because we contribute. So I think that that's something that's really, really important. And if you're in a relationship and you're constantly nervous about the person relapsing, take a deep dive and look into yourself for a while, and remember to be where your feet are. And the future tripping is going to ruin your relationship 100%. That's why a lot of couples don't make it, because they're always playing the what if in their mind instead of what is right now. So good. That was very profound. Thank you. It took me a long time to get it out. It was in there, but well, next week we'll come. If you guys have questions around relapse, or just our thoughts, or you want further explanation, write in the comments. We can elaborate on the next show, or we'll reply back to you guys. But yeah, appreciate you guys, and look forward to seeing you next week. See you next week. Bye.